Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Ambassador Fisher, for all of your great work on what's happening in Belarus. As you pointed out in your opening statement, Senators Murphy, Portman, and I had a chance to stop in Lithuania on our trip to Ukraine and Georgia last week and meet with Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. And I can tell you how impressed I think we all were with her courage, with the motivation of the opposition, and their willingness to travel around Europe to build support for the opposition movement. It was particularly interesting to see the juxtaposition of that meeting and the picture that appeared in international newspapers of Lukashenko and Putin on Putin's yacht while they were incarcerating journalists and members of the opposition. The two of them were out having a good time on his yacht, obviously not at all concerned about what's happening with human rights and in Belarus. I wonder, one of the things that we heard that was of concern to other countries in the region was this proposed union between Russia and Belarus. Can you talk about what you think the implications of that are?
Thank you, Senator. The proposed union state is a process. This idea of Russia and Belarus combining at a variety of different levels for a sort of supranational association. And this is a process that has been underway between the two countries for 2 decades. It is not one that has moved quickly, nor is it one that has moved particularly transparently. And what is in it for each of the two countries is also not entirely clear. What I have observed is that Moscow has in every way taken advantage of Belarus's vulnerabilities as they have endured this dictatorship of Alexander Lukashenko, and they will continue to do so. They will continue to use Belarus for their own purposes, which leaves the people of Belarus with very little voice, very little agency in their own future. And the question of what the people of Belarus want for their future is, of course, one of the most significant motivators for what took place last summer. It is the desire of the people of Belarus to have a voice in their future. And that is one of the pieces of the union state that concerns me greatly, is what happens to them in that process.
Absolutely. And again, it's a concern that we heard not just from the opposition leader, but from others in the region. One of the things that I was also impressed with was the support from Lithuania, and they also mentioned Poland in supporting the opposition leaders, many of whom are living in Lithuania now. Can you talk about what more we might do in the United States to support the efforts of both of those two countries as they work to support opposition leaders?
Thank you. I think there is room for us to do an awful lot more with regards to both in support of the democratic opposition outside of Belarus's borders. There is also room for us to do more in coordination with our allies, our frontline allies, our partners in the region. Lithuania and Poland, as you note, are carrying an incredibly heavy burden as they host opposition elements, as they help to protect them. I would note that in Poland, they have been hosting generations of opposition who have been forced to flee over the decades of Lukashenko's regime. And Lithuania, of course, is doing a tremendous amount to not only to welcome those who are fleeing persecution and repression, but to keep them safe. This is an area where I think the United States can work very closely with our partners. I would also note, Senator, I know Ukraine was also a stop on your trip. There has been an awful lot of economic flight to Ukraine. A lot of technology folks have fled to Ukraine. We have seen a prominent journalist, analytical observer, whose name was mentioned in the forced confession from Roman Protasevich, felt that he had to leave Belarus. So I think it's important to recognize, right, we have 3 allies and an important partner, all of whom are significantly impacted by these events.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.